subcommittee meeting of the 1st of May 2023. So I think everybody here is experienced enough to have knowledge of all the way that we treat our electronic devices and laptops, etc. So I'll just ask the clerk to confirm any apologies, please.
Thank you, Convener. We have apologies from Councillor McEwen with Councillor Donaldson substituting. We have one member online, Councillor Forbes. Can you please confirm you're present?
Yes, good afternoon, I'm here.
Thank you. All other members are present in the Chambers, Convener.
Thanks. And can I ask if any members have any declarations of interest? I see no declarations of interest, so can we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting? Can we approve them? That was the meeting of the 11th of January 2023. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 4, which is the Learning Estate Programme Progress Update, and I'll ask Greg Boland to introduce this report, please. Over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Convener. Good morning, committee. Oh, sorry, apologies. Good afternoon, committee. The report you have in front of you today is an update on the Learning Estate programmes and key milestones we've reached since the last update to committee in June of 22. What I intend to do is run through the main contents of the report, and then I will run through the appendix, and at the end of each project I will stop and take any questions if there is any, and if not then I'll move on. I have Stephen Crawford alongside me to the back of the room, who's obviously the Head of Property Services, who will also answer any questions if there is any. Okay, so since the last update to this committee, some of the significant milestones that have been reached with regard to the Learning Estate is firstly in relation to the new primary school at Bertha Park. We've now submitted the new project request, which kicks off the project, and that was submitted in February of this year. We've now commenced the procurement process for the design team, and also in addition we submitted a bid to the Scottish Government to its Learning Estate Investment Programme funding, and we wait information on that bid, whether we've been successful or not. That has been delayed due to the appointment of the new First Minister. We currently don't have timelines for that. Moving on to the replacement for Blairgowrie Recreational Centre. Since the last committee, we had approval by planning for the design in August of last year. And I'm pleased to confirm on the 1st of March this year, Council approved additional funding, which will allow the project to proceed and to commence. Running through some other major kind of milestones for the committee in relation to Perth Academy. Phase 3 refurbishment works have been progressed and been completed, along with some roofing works. In relation to Perth Grammar School, Phase 1 of classroom refurbishment works were completed last summer, and audiovisual equipment and learning spaces have been completed just the Easter holidays just passed. In relation to Perth High School, the full business case was approved by Council in December, and an uplift in funding which allows the project to proceed, and I'm pleased to confirm we are now on site since February of this year at the new Perth High School. In relation to Rattray Primary School, which was a refurbishment and extension of the nursery, those works were completed last summer. So what I'll do now is move on to the appendix, and I will stop at the end of each project and then just take any questions. Okay, sorry, I just lost my thing. Sorry, please bear with me, committee. Apologies. Okay, so running through the appendix. So the first project we have is obviously the new primary school at Bertha Park. I covered that kind of earlier. So we're progressing with that project. We wait funding announcement from the government, and the delivery date will be August 2026. I will pause there and take any questions on the new primary school.
We have a question from Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Greg, I appreciate that getting a new First Minister is quite a significant thing in our country, but I'm surprised that that might have an impact on whether we get this money or when we get this money. Do you get any sense that there may be a change in attitude and this money may not be forthcoming?
Councillor Forbes, I'm not aware of any that the fundings won't be coming. I think the funding's been will be allocated across Scotland. I think it's just going through the criteria and the selection process for the government to allocate the funding across Scotland. I think it's just strictly just a delay to the timelines. But I don't know if Stephen has any other update. No, Stephen is saying no. So we're really just waiting on announcement on the bid being successful or not.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
Councillor Cuthbert.
It's a general question. The cost of building supplies and so on, through the last year, they were rocketing up. I'm just wondering, have they stabilised? Are they falling back a bit now? Are we in a position where things are continuing to be more expensive, or have they stopped?
I'll get Stephen Crawford to answer that, please.
Okay. The projection for this year is 2 to 3% tender price inflation. That's the best information we've got. After last year, anywhere between 10 and 20% in certain sectors.
Thanks, Stephen. So it doesn't mean they're falling back. They're just increasing less slowly than they were last year. Thanks for answering the question. Happy with that, Councillor Cuthbert. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, convener. Can I just ask, with regard to Bertha Park, on the Learning State Investment Programme, a bid with Perth High School was successful, with Riverside Primary School successful, with Bertha Park, and we've discussed the timing there, but what I would like to ask is, it states, and I think it's common to all three projects, if the bid is successful, the funding will be provided over a 25-year period based on the council meeting's specified targets. Could you just perhaps illustrate what those targets are and how potentially onerous they might or might not be? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Donaldson. I'll start the question. Stephen may come in with some additional. So basically, for the 25-year period, the new school will require to be of a condition rating and suitable rating of B and above. So the building needs to be maintained for that 25-year period. It will also need to meet certain energy targets. We're obviously putting in, and I have put in, passive house within the specification to ensure we meet that, and also other kind of criteria which links to kind of IT technology and making sure the buildings are as up to date as possible to ensure a suitable learning environment for our pupils of Perth and Kinross.
Stephen, do you have anything to add to that?
Right, here we are. Yes, I think on top of the energy targets and the maintenance targets that Greg has spoken to, the phase 3 of LEAP funding has a lot greater design expectation on net zero design standards. We previously approached the LEAP target of operational energy of 67 kilowatts per square metre from a passive house perspective. This one puts a greater obligation on the actual construction type, the materials, and where the energy is consumed is from. So there are a lot greater design implications for the construction.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Forbes, can you hear us remotely?
Yes, I can now. It was just the first bit of Stephen's introduction that all went quiet, but it's working fine. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Greg, do you want to continue?
Yes, thank you, convener. So moving on, I touched on earlier the replacement for the Blairgowrie Recreational Centre. We have signed a letter of intent. We are approaching financial close, which we hope will be signed off within the next kind of fortnight, and we will certainly be looking for construction to start sometime during May and certainly by the end of the month. And the building will become operational in December 2024.
Thanks for that, Greg. Greg, and just continue, and if there are any questions, they'll come up, I'll ask you, but just it saves stopping every time. Obviously welcome the good news for Blairgowrie Recreation Centre. I'm sure everybody within the chamber says the same. Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I think I know the answer to this, but just remind me, once we've reached financial close, is that then a fixed price project and there's no increase beyond that point? Is that the case?
Yes, Councillor Forbes, I can confirm that is the case, yes.
Thanks.
Is there no further questions or comments on that? Just continue, Greg.
Thank you, convener. The next one we have is Methven Primary School. We've undertaken substantial enabling works have been completed, and we demolished the previous gym hall. Improvements on site have been made to access and external landscapes on the site. We've installed an EV charge point. We've upgraded the nursery area and updated the paths, and also a new trim trail has been installed. Design works for the next phase of the project are underway, which will obviously set out the milestones for completion of the project, and the indicative timelines that will be on site a date later in 2024.
Thanks, Greg. I don't see any questions, so if you want to move on.
Okay, thank you, convener. So refurbishment works at Perth Academy. Obviously, these are ongoing in a live school environment, which obviously focus on holidays, but we are working with the school to progress the works on site. Over the last kind of couple of years, we've completed refurbishment works on the site, including CCTV installation, lighting upgrades, structural upgrades, ventilation, and other infrastructural works. We've also upgraded student social space and also classroom refurbishments, and we continue with the completion of phase 3 for this summer, which obviously includes AV Wi-Fi upgrades, further classroom upgrades, and also a furniture upgrade programme. Phase 4, which will commence following this completion of the current phase this summer, will be a focus on phase 4, which will be the science block fabric.
Thanks, Greg. Again, no questions.
Thank you. Moving on to Perth Grammar School. So we've completed works with the replacement of all the toilets within the site. We're also upgrading audiovisual stuff, which was just completed at the Easter break there. And we're currently just working with the school and our colleagues in property services about the next phases, which will obviously be set out and updated to this committee once these milestones have been agreed.
Again, no questions.
Thank you, convener. Moving on to Perth High School.
Councillor Barrett.
Thanks very much. Just wanted to double check that, where there was no change to the baseline information in the appendix, that meant that the previous milestones or dates were still in effect. So basically the project's on target.
Yes, that'd be correct, Councillor Barrett, yes.
Thanks, Greg. I don't see any further questions coming through.
Okay, moving on to the replacement for Perth High School. As we know, I kind of mentioned earlier that we are now on site working with the school and the construction company on the new build, which is underway. The financial close was obviously reached, and we're working towards a completion date of summer 2025 for the new school to open.
Thanks. No questions again.
Thank you, Convener. I touched on earlier the refurbishment and extension of Rattray Primary School and Nursery was completed for last summer. Is now fully operational.
Thanks, and you can move on to Riverside Primary, please.
Yep, thank you. And moving on, last but not least, and it's the Riverside Primary School, which is bringing together our current North Muirton Primary and Balhousie Primary School. And I'm pleased to confirm we're all on target, and the new school will open on the 13th of June, allowing the pupils to obviously move into the new building. And that is the update on the Learning Estate programme. Convener.
Thanks very much, Greg. Thanks for that update, and it's all promising stuff. So I would ask, I'm just at that, I'm happy to move the report as it is. Sorry, Councillor Cuthbert.
It's a question. I know the ones that we've got here, which the progress is looking good. I was wondering about Cleash Primary School, and are there any other schools that are in the pipeline, and could you give an indication of what they are and when they might come forward?
Yes, Councillor Cuthbert. In relation to Cleash Primary School, we're currently undertaking upgrades within the current school, which are works that are being undertaken just now and will be complete by the summer. Also, as a longer term, that has been agreed that we will replace the life expired buildings on the site. We're currently undertaking a feasibility study, and we're due to come back to committee next year just regarding the works that have been completed and obviously the next steps and taking the major works forward. So we will get a report back in 2024 on the major works, which is basically replacing all the life expired buildings and putting in a fit for purpose building, obviously, for the pupils.
Supplementary.
It was just to say, are there any other schools in the pipelines as well?
The other one I would maybe just draw to the committee's attention is the refurbishment and extension of Braco Primary School. That was the plan with the school. In recent times, there's been discussions with potential land purchase, which would allow the new school very close to the current school to be put in place, which the benefit would be we wouldn't need to decant the pupils. These negotiations, we are hoping, certainly within the next fortnight, we bring them to a close. So that's Braco Primary School. Obviously, if that offer to purchase the land was successful, we would come back to this committee just seeking approval. Obviously, it would be subject to planning approval and this committee's approval to purchase the land. So that's Braco Primary School, and that's probably the two kind of biggies that are maybe not reported in this report today.
Thanks, Greg. If there are no further questions, I'm happy to formally move the report.
Happy to second. Thanks, Convener.
If there are no amendments, are we happy to agree the report? Thank you. Do we have any comments on the report? Thanks. So thanks, Greg. I think we can now move to private session, please. So if members want to come out of this part online and then enter on the private session.